OMG, people. We have a first round draft prospect that on April 25th, 2025 was pushed down to the fifth round. Started his NFL career off as a fourth string quarterback. Now he's QB1 leading his team to victory. I want you to timestamp that because the writing is already on the wall. Tonight, we're going to be debunking a lot of gossip that just sits around Shedeur name. Like, we're going to back this up with stats and data, but the storyline, the context is just as important. Because once we break all of this down, I hope you really get a feel of what type of person Shedeur Sanders is and what really makes him special. But before we jump down in that lane, let me just thank you for tuning in to Rob So Random. Coming out of high school, Shedeur Sanders could have basically went to any of the top schools in the country, including Alabama, UGA, Florida, Florida State, LSU, Michigan, you name it. This man had options. He has over 25 full ride scholarships to go to whatever school he pleased. And if I'm being honest, he took a hard route to make it to the NFL. But the route Shedeur Sanders took, it really lets you know like the kind of person he is. What Shedeur Sanders did, most people wouldn't have done. And I don't care who your pops is. If Shedeur would have went to any of those top schools, his chances of going to the Natty or even winning one would have been increased by 90%. But we all know he didn't take that route. He took the hardest route an athlete could have took in his position. And that should tell you a few things about the man right there if you look at this on a deep level. He wasn't just thinking about himself. He valued family, and he valued family over his career. And that should tell you one thing right there. He isn't afraid of a challenge. But the biggest thing that really tells you everything you need to know about Shedeur Sanders, he doesn't fear the unknown. And I'm going to say that again for you. He doesn't fear the unknown. I want you to remember that statement because that statement is going to come full circle. When you are a man of God and you strongly believe in your faith, you embrace the unknown. And when you listen to Prime speak or when you listen to Shedeur Sanders speak, it truly makes sense, because they always speak on their faith, what they believe in. And you can see this early on in Shedeur Sanders' career. So we all know by now he followed his pops to Jackson State. Jackson State was in a bad way when Prime Shedeur got to the school, right? And Shiloh. But what y'all know, Jackson State was in a bad way. It's been a while since they been to a bowl game. It's been a while, like at that point, that they actually even won one. But they did their thing when they was down there at Jackson State. But I want you to keep that in mind as well. That was a rebuild program. They had to basically start from scratch. He followed his pops to CU. that was the worst football team in all of college football. And he elevated that program as well. I know he got a lot of backlash about how he just came in, kicked over 80, 90 some players off the team. But what a lot of casuals don't know, he kind of did the same thing at Jackson State. If you go back and watch the videos, Prime got rid of a lot of players because they wasn't serious about the game. But no one said nothing about that because it was just Jackson State. But CU, like I was saying, that was a rebuild program as well. So, Shedeur Sanders had the opportunity to go to any well-established programs that already have recruits, knee deep in recruits, but he chose the tough route. I don't think a lot of folks understand how hard it is to build a team. But both times, he followed his dad and his brother to two schools, and he was willing to rebuild those programs no matter how it affected his career. Shedeur Sanders isn't afraid to embrace the unknown. He had no idea how this would or wouldn't affect his career, but he knew one thing, he was riding with his pops no matter what. That tells you the young man really believes in loyalty, and he truly believes in family over all else. I know you get a lot of people try and say, well, he only won 4 games his first year at CU. He only won 4 games, whoop-de-whoop. Do you understand? Prime had 4 to 5 months to put a school together. To put a team together. That 4-8 season was absolutely awesome. Yes, they could have did better because they lost every game less than 1 touchdown, man. And if we being real now, and this is another thing people love to try to throw up in his face. Well, he was only quarterback because his dad was coach. Now, let me break down some stats for you now. Let me just break down some stats for you. Let me slide this over here for you. Shedeur Sanders was ranked number 4 out of all the QBs in his draft class. Like, Shedeur Sanders was a pure athlete. He threw 4,134 yards. He's only a couple hundred yards away from Cam. And I want you to understand me when I say he had the worst offensive line in all of college football. I know a lot of the haters like to act like that just didn't happen. Shedeur made it work. Being the most sacked, 42 sacks. Do you understand me? Now let's just go down here to Dylan Gabriel. If we was looking at Shedeur Sanders with 21 sacks, he would have easily had about 4,400 yards. He would easily be number 2 on this list. So when I often tell people, Shedeur being a backup in the NFL has nothing to do with his skill set, this is what I mean. Like Shedeur Sanders, his accuracy, his poise, a lot of skills that translate. And what I mean by translate, when you are accurate, that's a skill that translates no matter who you're playing. That's a skill that doesn't change just because you're playing 2 different caliber teams. For example, you can be playing a team that is 1-11. Your accuracy wouldn't change just because you're playing a team that's undefeated. But casuals wouldn't know that. I want you to take a look at this for me, okay? I want you to take a quick look at this. Let me bring this down for you. Shedeur Sanders college stats shows a career passing completion rate of 70.1%, throwing for 14,353 yards and 134 touchdowns with 27 interceptions. Shedeur Sanders was absolutely elite as a quarterback. Finished college ranked 14th in NCAA history. Holds over 100 school records at the University of Colorado. A lot of people often ask, why did they retire his jersey? Why did they retire Travis Hunter's jersey? They didn't win a bowl game. You got to understand something. It's about how that player impacted the school. The school retired his jersey. A lot of folks didn't know that CU didn't even have an NIL program. They had no money for NIL. A lot of sports programs that they had in Colorado was going through it. Rick George was going through it. This man went out there and saved jobs, saved programs, completely impacted the community. That's why they retired his jersey. What this man did for the University of Colorado is priceless. And you really have to dig into the fine details to actually see that. That was Rick George's decision to retire Shedeur Sanders' jersey. That wasn't Coach Prime's decision. You got to understand, Rick George was extremely and still is extremely grateful for what Shedeur Sanders did at his school, man. The kid played ball, stayed out of trouble, great in the community, went around, visited elementary schools, middle schools, high schools. The same thing he's doing in the NFL. A lot of people try and act like Shedeur Sanders was subpar. The kid was by far subpar. He was elite. And that's why so many people is upset. That's why so many people is peed off, because we watched and we've been watching. He didn't deserve the treatment. Then they like to act like his stats at Jackson State just don't count. They try to act like the man's stats at Jackson State just don't count. You see what I mean by Shedeur Sanders has a skill set that translates? Shedeur actually got better. He actually got better. As you can see, 2023, he was only out a couple games. That's why he only threw for 3,200. But as you can see, his game increased, man, because the type of skills Shedeur have, it isn't dependent on, who he's playing. The biggest upset I have about, when it comes to Shedeur, because we never, to this point right here, we haven't even seen what he's truly capable of. Because he had such a terrible offensive line. But what I'm going to wrap this up with is that term legendary. I want to wrap this up with that term legendary. Because what Shedeur Sanders is experiencing right now, as much as I hate it, only a Shedeur Sanders can be built for a storyline like this. And that's all the NFL did. All the NFL did was give this man one of the most craziest storylines in the history of football. Because I want you to think about something. Everything this kid does is going to be the first time a 5th round pick has ever. You're going to get tired of hearing that. The first time a 5th round pick has ever did this. This is the first time a 5th round pick did this, that, and the third. You're going to get tired of it. But the fact that Shedeur Sanders' whole stamp, his whole brand is legendary, bro, it's perfect for him. And he knows this. First, let's look up what legendary means. Being legendary means to be so famous, celebrated, and admired that stories are told about you for generations. Let's stop right there. If Shedeur Sanders never played in the NFL, let's just say his storyline stopped right there at the draft. That would have been talked about for generations. That draft slide would have been talked about. It would have been the subject of conspiracies as long as football is a popular sport. When you have a college prospect that put up the stats, that has the reputation in the community, when you have someone with such an elite skill set slide all the way down to the 5th round, that's a topic that's gonna come up every draft because it was no reason for it. But let's go back down into legendary, right? Inspiring others. A legendary person challenges the status quo and inspires creativity and passion in others. Challenges the status quo. He's not like your average QB. And this is what they so-called push them down the draft for in a way. He was cocky. No, he was confident. He was confident in his abilities. He was confident in what he can bring to your organization. If you haven't seen my other videos, please take a look at it because I really break this down. They wanted this man to be cocky so bad, and Shedeur Sanders has never been cocky. Like, he's only cocky to failures. But the fact that you had owners upset because he was basically letting you know what he feel he can do for your program. Shedeur knew he was going to a team that needed help. That's where the stars go. Could you imagine feeling insulted because a quarterback just walked in my office and told me he can change the program? We know by now Kevin Stefanski just doesn't like the type of player Shedeur Sanders is, and I made a video about that as well, going in detail, talking about, his words, the type of player he likes. But every single thing that Shedeur Sanders is going through right now is legendary. Because we know when his time come, oh, oh, he's gonna turn up. We know he will not be stopped. And Kevin Stefanski is trying his hardest to slow it down, slow his progression down. But you can easily tell Shedeur Sanders isn't stressing it. He's not worried about it. He's sitting back with a smile on his face because he know it's all in due time. And I thank y'all for checking out Rob So Random. Hit that subscribe, smash that follow, smash that like. We're gonna be bringing, man, we're gonna be bringing videos, man. Like, if you just starting, to come over to my channel, I appreciate the support. Like, I truly do. I'm still trying to get all of this situated, like how I'm gonna officially do my videos. But I appreciate the love. Appreciate everybody that's been reaching out. Y'all have a great night, and I'm out of here.